Hey everyone, I'm Richard Jeter-Chappell, Associate Professor of Philosophy at the University of Miami and co-editor of Utilitarianism.net. And today I want to give you a bit of a tour of the website. So the main thing to know is that Utilitarianism.net is an open access textbook introducing utilitarianism and offering supplementary materials. It's free, openly available, and here's some of what you can do here. So if you start off going to the utilitarianism.net website, click on the main textbook, learn about utilitarianism button there. You can see a summary there of the full textbook, all the different chapters. There's a lot of material covered there, and maybe there are a couple of things I'd emphasize about what's most distinctive about our textbook offering here compared to other options you might be able to find in your university library. I think the two really big things that set ours apart, besides it's being completely open access free on the internet, one thing is just that it's incredibly comprehensive. So if you look through, there's just a lot of material covered here that I don't really think you'll find so much in other textbooks. I particularly highlight the second chapter on the elements and types of utilitarianism, gives a really good thorough overview of all the different distinctions that are going to be sort of useful to know if you're studying it at all, like at the undergraduate level, writing essays on the topic. Just makes really clear some of the key distinctions. There's also some kind of fun material that you don't come across so much elsewhere, so I quite like our chapter on near-utilitarian alternatives, which talks about ways that you could actually reject aspects of utilitarianism, think this isn't quite right, this aspect of the view is wrong, but nonetheless end up with something close enough that it doesn't make a big difference in practice. And this actually ties in with the second aspect of our website and the textbook as a whole, is that it's quite practically focused. So although there is a lot of detail on the theory behind utilitarianism and different aspects of it, there's also a fair bit of focus on the practical implications. And so whereas people quite often, philosophers will often think of utilitarianism as primarily being about like pushing people in front of trolleys or some sort of ridiculous sort of thought experiments like that, we've really tried to emphasize throughout the more realistic implications of utilitarian ethics. And one important big part of the website is this acting on utilitarianism page, where if you go there, you can actually find out information about how to do the most good in the world, or at least, our best guesses are some further resources you could look into if you're interested in that. So that's sort of a key thing that the website is all about. Besides the sort of core textbook chapters and that sort of supplemental practical information, additional resources worth looking into are our guest essays. We've just recently, in the latest update, added 3 new essays on research ethics, on uncertainty, moral uncertainty, and on climate change. So I strongly recommend checking out our excellent guest essays. There's you sort of see from the names going through, there's some great people, great topics, lots of really good stuff offered there. Some other things that are worth looking into, the Utilitarian Thinkers page. Besides the sort of the usual suspects, I think a couple that I'd especially emphasize that I think interesting to look into more are entries on Susanna Newcomb and William Thompson, a couple of sort of lesser known early utilitarian thinkers. I think those are some really interesting entries we offer there. And then maybe one other thing I'd emphasize is our Famine, Affluence and Morality Study Guide. So this is one of the most commonly assigned articles in philosophy sort of ethics classes, super important one by Peter Singer. And I think it's just a really useful resource. I mean, I guess I would think that I wrote it, so, maybe don't take my word for it. But if you look through it, I think it is a good resource. And so it tries to set out the argument really clearly, looks through some of the key objections that students often have, or that anyone might have when thinking about the argument. Look at things like repeatability, how is that going to affect the argument? And then there's some discussion questions, essay tips if you're writing an essay on it. And importantly, also citation information. So, this is something where this study guide could be assigned as a supplemental reading or text in a philosophy class, and the information is there for students to cite it appropriately. One other nice thing about the textbook, you can just click this PDF button on any of our main pages, and it turns it into a nicely formatted PDF that you can just download and share, assign to your class, whatever. So that's all hopefully pretty useful stuff. I think those were the main things I was wanting to introduce. You can find out more about us from the About Us page. You don't just have to take my word for it that it's an excellent resource. If you look through our endorsements, we've got some of the top ethicists in the world, places like Harvard, Princeton, just lots of great people agree that this is a good website, so it's got some good backing there. And there's contact information if you have any questions about the material, particularly if you spot any problems with the website or have suggestions for how it could be improved. We're always adding to it. I'm planning to add a couple more objections to our core chapters in the coming weeks and months. If you have suggestions, feel free to write to us, write to me at contact@utilitarianism.net. Yeah, love to hear your thoughts. Hey, thanks very much.